Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, shiur Torah, shavua tov, shavua mevorach, everyone. We're back, continuing our series, Jewish HaShkafa, based on the Sefer called Emunah and Bitachon by the Chazon Ish, alav shalom. We, Baruch Hashem, have learned quite a bit from the Chazon Ish over these last several months about what is Emunah, what is Bitachon, but for real, meaning that for all intents and purposes, many have that have been following this series closely have repeatedly rediscovered what Bitachon is, because what we've learned throughout our lives that the best case scenario has been just superficial Bitachon, whereas the Chazon Ish is teaching us verse after verse, chapter after chapter, paragraph after paragraph, what is really the inner depth of Bitachon. And tonight, BeEzrat Hashem, he goes another step further to give us a little bit of the outcome of having Bitachon. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, David ben Esriya, Doris bat Jora, Orit bat Ilana, Michal bat Yael, Talia bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, Stefan ben Katarina, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Shaul ben Farzane, Yitro ben Avraham, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esriya, Marsha bat Julie, and also her dear daughter Ayla bat Marsha. Baruch Hashem, BeEzrat Hashem, they'll have a Atzlacha Rabba b'chol ma'aseh yadayim, and all of the wonderful people that have helped us, and also as a very special thank you to all of the people that helped us in the last year. The the cyclical calendar, Gregorian calendar was just completed. Baruch Hashem, our organization continued to grow. We've been increasing our efforts, increasing our our hashpa'ah, our efforts to an effect on the public. Many more people have done tshuva, more people have converted. Just in the last month, we had 3 different people complete their conversion at the Beit Din, Baruch Hashem, and we have another family, BeEzrat Hashem, will be completing their conversion just this month, BeEzrat Hashem. And so lots of things happening, and really all of this is, aside from, of course, thank you to the Ribbono Shel Olam, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is giving us the zchut to be a part of so many people's lives from around the world, whether it be Florida, New York, Australia, and even as far as the Philippines, Abu Dhabi, and many other places where there are many neshamot yearning for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Some of them were born Jews and didn't even know how significant it is. Some of them were religious their whole life, but only started doing tshuva once they watched our shiurim, because what they learned was not necessarily enough to get them glued to Hashem like we would like for them to be, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants them to be, like they themselves want to be. As anyone that watched the new film that we released this morning, of a very personal story of a young man that came to me at really dire straits, really horrible situation, very similar to the situation that I had, very sick, lost all of his money, job, everything, but Baruch Hashem, if you watch that film, you'll see what a wonderful ending it had. And it didn't have a wonderful ending because I sugarcoated anything or I told him that everything's going to be okay, but rather because we told him the truth and he took action. Highly recommend that film. One person that watched it made a comment, this film is going to save lives, and I don't doubt it. I don't think it's an exaggeration. I think that anyone that takes that movie to heart can definitely use it to save lives. Because many people today are simply lost. Many people are ignorant. Many people have turned to the gods of others, the god of money, the god of gold, the god of corona, the god of all of the media, the god of the president, the old one, the new one, the one that's supposed to be, the one they want to be, and the stock market, and a lot of other gods except the God of Israel. And only after they lose their mind, their money, and anything in between do they finally come to Hashem. And the reality is that it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to repeat the mistakes that I made and so many like me have made and finally get back to Hashem. You could simply learn from the sages, learn our Torah, and save yourself a lot of heartache. A lot of heartache. Baruch Hashem, some people do listen and some people don't. The ones that listen, benefit, and they save themselves a lot of heartache and a lot of aches of all kinds. And some that don't. I'll tell you a couple of stories before we start today, just a couple of simple examples. Simple examples of people that listen and don't listen. Baruch Hashem, both have good endings, but nonetheless, one is a little more painful than the other. In one story, I had a young woman come to me, I'd say probably about a year and a half ago or so, year and a half ago, and told me that, she's having a tough issue, she's having a difficult time. What's the difficult time? Well, her non-Jewish boyfriend just broke up with her, and she's really having a hard time with it. I explained to her time and time again that the best thing that ever happened to her is that this non-Jewish person left her. It's better for him, it's better for her. He's much better off being with a non-Jewish woman. She's better off with a Jewish person for 1.5 million different reasons, in addition to the reasons that HaKadosh Baruch Hu simply said it's not allowed. And she had a tough time, but eventually she started moving on. And she said, listen, I found somebody else, and that somebody else is a nice person. He's a Jewish person. He keeps Shabbat, and for all intents and purposes, according to our standards, he was religious. Now, of course, everybody's description of religious is very different than what HaKadosh Baruch Hu's description of religious is. So when she started telling me about this person, one of the things that caught my attention is that she told me that he's a Kohen. He's a Kohen, and I told her, I'm sorry to tell you that although he may be a nice person, although he may be Jewish, which is obviously a big upgrade from your past, you're still not allowed to be with him. I said, why not? What's wrong with him? I said, she said, he's religious. He keeps Shabbat. He keeps kosher. So why is that a bad thing? I said, no, those things are a good thing. But the problem is that since you, as a Jewish woman, you were intimate with a non-Jewish person, you're not allowed to be with a Kohen. Not allowed to be with a Kohen. Now this, of course, hurt her. And she thought that I was making something up, perhaps. So she said, no, maybe there's a way. Maybe I can do it. Maybe this, maybe that. And I told her, listen, this is what it is. There are certain things that weren't paskin to halacha. They're not recommended either way, but nonetheless, they weren't paskin to halacha. But in this particular case, you're not allowed. If you are a Jewish woman that went with a non-Jewish man, you're not allowed to be with a Kohen. And she decided that she's not going to listen. And, I deal with thousands and thousands of people. I can't follow up with everybody. Also as a side note, many times people think that I make the shiurim about them because they send me questions, and sometimes I talk about different things in the shiur that sound like their questions and sound like their life. And I always tell people, it's not about you. Not because I'm trying to hide. If it's about you, trust me, I'll tell you it's about you. But rather it's because there are thousands like you. There are literally thousands like you. Just last night, someone told me, listen, I just watched the shiur. Did my husband contact you? Did he tell you about these issues that we had? I said, no. Why? She goes, no, this shiur had to have been mine. It had to be about me. There's no way. Why not? Why do you think so? She says, because everything that you said is exactly what happened in my house. And I said, well, listen, I don't know. I don't have the greatest memory in the world, but I think that we just met in the last year, and that shiur that you just mentioned, look at the date on the bottom of the YouTube video. It says 2017. I made this shiur before I met you. She goes, wow. I guess there's more people like me. There's many more people like you, and everybody has the same exact problems. Everybody has the same exact problems, and the reality is we talk about them. We talk about them for the benefit of the public, not to embarrass anybody, not to shame anyone, but the reality is that these issues are everywhere. And this young woman did not want to hear it, didn't want to see it, and she didn't want to listen. And okay, it's sad enough that this happened, but nonetheless, life moves on. She contacts me recently, and she tells me, listen, I know what your feelings are about me being with that person, but I didn't listen to you, and I ended up spending the last 7 months with this Kohen. And it was a wonderful time until he broke my heart and he left me. And he left me, why? Because he found out that I was with a non-Jew. And not because he's such a religious person, but rather because it just bothered him, psychologically bothered him. Now, of course, She could have saved herself 7 months headache and however long it's going to take for her to get over him. But I told her, listen, again, I told you the truth a year ago. I'm going to tell you the truth again now. You should not pray for him to come back to you. You should not pray for you to come back to him. You should pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thanking him that this guy left you rather than you having to break up with him at some other time. Why? Because it's not good for you. The relationship is not good for you. If he loved you, he wouldn't leave you. No one that loves another person leaves them. A lot of people think, no, he really loves me. He just left me because he has psychological issues. He has money issues. No. Someone that loves you doesn't leave you. It just doesn't work that way. That's only in the secular world do people think that loving you is okay with leaving you. It doesn't work that way in reality. When you love somebody, that means that you've made them a part of you. A life without that person doesn't exist in your mind. So I told you this, and of course, what I'm telling you may sound, it's not so bad, but to a person that's dealing with the trauma of a heartbreak, it's very painful. But Baruch Hashem, she said, you know what? You're right. I'm going to take your advice. I'm going to get over it. I'm going to move on with my life. And Baruch Hashem. Now, of course, it's a happy ending, but it could have been happier had she listened and saved herself the 7 months. Saved herself the heartache. Saved herself from all the sins, the Shem Yishmo v'Yatzil, that have been made over these last 7 months. But nonetheless, sometimes we hear the advice the first time, sometimes the second time. It's better late than never. On another case, if you've noticed, in the beginning of every shiur, I mention a sick list. I mention different people that need help, need special prayers from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we mention their name to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that even the shiur that we're doing is for their sake, is for their behalf, simply because they deserve their account to be reviewed, because they're doing things about it. Not because we're expecting HaKadosh Baruch Hu to change his mind, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't change his mind. Don't let anybody fool you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not change his mind. But rather, once we change our actions by doing more good, the deen that was decreed on the person that's getting the suffering, it simply doesn't belong to the person that's now doing good things. Meaning, person A did a bunch of different things. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him a few pounds of suffering. That person could do two things. He could start crying about it. He could start whining about it. He could start complaining about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He could go against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He can do that. Sure, many people do. And guess what? Not much good is going to happen out of that. Or he could do something good. He could support kiruv. He could learn Torah. He could do mitzvot. He could change his actions. He could fix himself and so on and so forth. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu can review his account and say, hold on a second. The 5 pounds of suffering that I gave this person, well, it's the wrong person. Well, I gave it to a person that was violating Shabbat. This guy's not violating Shabbat. I gave it to a person that was wasting seed. This guy was not wasting seed. I gave it to a person that was stealing in his business. He's not stealing from his business. I gave it to a person that was keeping all the money that I gave him to himself instead of supporting Torah. No, this guy is publicizing Torah nonstop. Every time he gets a paycheck, he writes a check, 10, 20% of the check to kiruv, to an organization called BeEzrat Hashem that doesn't care about anything else but HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his nation. It's the wrong account. Got to move it out, and things change. Now, you think that this is an exaggeration or perhaps a minimization of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does? Is an example. Over the last several months, many of you have heard the same exact names being repeated. Over and over again. The list doesn't change. Doesn't change. Once in a while we add a name, but it doesn't change. But one of the names you did not hear today is a person by the name of Jonas. Jonas is a fantastic human being that decided to watch our shulim already for a few years, has done tshuva, has done a lot of good things. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him a very big test. Gave him a very big test that just some months ago, he is a handy person and decided that he is going to build something. I don't know the exact details, but he was working with some chemicals. And he said, to his dismay, he wasn't paying attention like he's been doing for many, many years. And he decided that, he's just going to do his job and do it again. We're not paying attention. He's not going to wear a mask. And what happened? He breathed in an enormous amount of chemicals where this specific type of chemical goes straight into the lungs. And so many words, it's just a matter of time before you die. And there's no cure. There's no cure. BeEzrat Hashem, you're going to see the story written by him soon. But I'm giving you the audio version of it. Maybe one day we'll have the merit to have him on the actual screen. You can see him tell the story himself. He says to me, Rabbi, I don't know what I was thinking, but I don't know how much time I have to live. I said, well, what happened? He says, I just breathe this chemicals and it goes into your lungs, and in so many words, that's it. There's no cure. There's no cure for this. What should I do? I said the same thing that we've been doing. We continue praying. We continue learning, and you have to exert yourself in regards to helping Am Yisrael, to helping more Jews do tshuva. That's what you have to do. Do more than you usually do. Now, I'm not big on talking to people, oh, invest more money. I don't like to do it because I want to make money. I go to Wall Street. But there are certain times you have to simply remind people of what they're supposed to know to begin with. So he says to himself, fine, this is what I'm going to do. He decides the amount on his own. He makes a much larger donation than what he typically does. When? For Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, that type of area, a few months ago. Baruch Hashem, we pray for him. Rabbi Ephraim prays for him. Every shiur we mention him. And guess what? The name's not on the list today. Why is the name not on the list today? Because miraculously, he goes to the doctors, and the doctors say, we thought you're going to have 2 weeks to live. 5 months ago. Today, there's nothing in your lungs. You're a perfectly healthy human being. There's nothing there, as if nothing ever happened. As if nothing ever happened. How does something go from being a matter of a few weeks before a person dies to several months later like nothing ever happened? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can decide whatever he wants. He can manipulate his own nature however he wants. Like putty. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. When you care about his people, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does certain things. And the reality is, Rabotai, is we've talked about this many, many times. Many times. This has nothing to do with me. It's just simply promises from the Torah. Im totzia kal mizolel kepitiye. If you bring a person that used to be a luggard, used to be a sinner, used to be a mechalel Shabbat, used to be wasting seed, used to be all types of other sins against the Torah, and you bring him back to me as a precious person, a person that keeps Torah, keeps mitzvot, keeps working on himself, keeps working on herself, you're going to be like my mouth. When you pray, I'm going to listen as if I prayed. This, Rabotai Yekarim, is one of the wonderful benefits that we get to see on a day-to-day basis. Now, of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides after all, but if we can do anything to help Klal Yisrael get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and as a result of it, also help other people to physically feel better, to financially feel better, to everything, why not? But this, of course, all has to do with our subject at hand. It has to do with Bitachon. The Rambam writes in his Mishneh Torah that in Hilchot Tshuva that when a person is praying, when he's praying on Yom Kippur, he's praying on Yom Kippur for Tshuva, and the same thing is repeated in the Gemara Masechet Yomah, page 86. Praise for Tshuva. Praise. I'm sorry, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I made Chatati Aviti Pashati. I sinned accidentally. I sinned on purpose. I sinned it's without knowing. Okay, no. I had a desire. No. Now I'm saying I'm sorry. Yom Kippur was the time to say I'm sorry, right? So I'm saying I'm sorry. The Rambam writes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will only forgive that person if he believes, if he has Bitachon in the system itself. Meaning, if you've already said I'm sorry about it last year, and you didn't repeat the sin this year, you made a sin when you were 15, 16, 18, 20, 25. Finally you woke up, you did tshuva, ishtabach shemo la'ad, mazal tov, you did tshuva. You said I'm sorry, finished. Don't keep saying I'm sorry for the rest of your life, Rambam writes. Why? He says, because if you say I'm sorry every year for the sins that you've already made, but you said I'm sorry, and you didn't repeat those sins, then by saying I'm sorry again on Yom Kippur, it's like you don't trust the system. You don't have Bitachon in the system. You don't have Bitachon, you don't have confidence that Hashem will forgive you. And that's not good. On the other hand, if you made the sin again, then you have to say I'm sorry again. But the point being is that Bitachon has to do with every little step that we take in our life. Whether it's making a living, finding a wife, finding a husband, having kids, or even doing tshuva. That's in essence what the Chazon Ish has been trying to teach us. But many times we see people mitzaftzifin bitachon, as the Chazon Ish says. Mitzaftzifin. What does it mean, mitzaftzifin? They're like birds. Say bitachon, I have bitachon, I believe in Hashem, but as soon as trouble hits, all of a sudden, they forget Hashem. As soon as the check doesn't clear, all of a sudden, they start sweating bullets. As soon as someone doesn't do what they want them to do, all of a sudden, oh, where's Hashem? Why is he doing this to me? I don't understand. What do you mean you don't understand? What, you thought you had bitachon? Well, yeah, I had bitachon, but it's not working. No, there's no such thing as the bitachon is not working. There's no such thing as bitachon not working. There's only, you don't know what bitachon is. And all you had was fake bitachon. All you had is fake confidence in Hashem. So as we've done B'Darkenu B'Kodesh over the last several shiurim, we repeat basically what it is. First and foremost, you have to have emunah. Emunah is faith in Hashem, that Hashem runs the world and is monitoring every single thing that happens. Whether it's you buying something, selling something, finding something, losing something, getting married, having kids, all types of things. Everything and anything is monitored by a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Even how your toothpaste is going to taste today versus tomorrow. Everything is monitored by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Everything. That's emunah. Understanding that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is monitoring everything. Bitachon, on the other hand, the Chazon Ish explains, is that whatever outcome you're going to have in your life, whether it be you got the job, you lost the job, you got there on time, you got there late, whatever the case may be, you got a raise, you lost money, you got a client, you lost a client, your wife is happy to see you, your wife can't stand you. All of that, having bitachon is, you are going to be happy. In fact, you're going to be ecstatic to the point of blessing Hashem for whatever outcome you got. Why? Because you know that whatever outcome you got is the best possible outcome out of all of the outcomes available to you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has an infinite amount of outcomes available. Your actions dictate and narrow down those possibilities for you. So although he has an infinite amount, your actions, good or bad, in essence narrow down the choices. And out of all of the choices available after everything is narrowed down by your actions, HaKadosh Baruch Hu picks the best possible one for you under the circumstances. Having bitachon means that you are ecstatic to the point of blessing Hashem for whatever choice he picked for you. Why? Because you know, not feel, not hope, not believe, you know this is the best. Getting a flat tire, if you got it today, that was the best possible thing. A car crash, best possible thing. A raise, doubled your salary, best possible thing. Good and bad, best possible thing. That's bitachon. That's bitachon. Now, when a person has no bitachon, it simply shows that he has no Torah either. Why? Because as a result of learning Torah, you're supposed to acquire some level of bitachon. But the Chazon Ish says that there's something much more dangerous than someone that has no bitachon, which is someone that has fake bitachon. Why? Because a person that has fake bitachon is a person that thinks he has it, and therefore is getting all types of students to follow him, to follow her, in their way, acquiring fake bitachon again. It's like a pyramid scheme. Pyramid scheme, but in reality here, even the one at the top of the pyramid loses more than everybody else. That's fake bitachon. It's very dangerous, the Chazon Ish says. Why? Because those people, they create an army of people that all have fake bitachon. And eventually everything collapses. More like a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme in spirituality. So now, what is the benefit? We've talked about all of this so far. Now to go into the next subject. Now to go into the next section. We're in the chapter 2, the last part of chapter 2, which is section 7. Here the Chazon Ish is going to tell us what is, at least a further than what we've learned so far, the benefit of having this bitachon. Now, of course, having bitachon, you're like a malach among men. You're like an angel among men. You will live with confidence. You live, you know that everything is good. That's already good enough. But the Chazon Ish says something else. Chazon Ish says, יש עוד ממידת הביטחון. כי על הבוטח שורה רוח הקודש, ומתלווה עמו רוח עוז ומבשרו כי אמנן יעזרהו אדוני, וכמו שאמר דוד המלך עליו השלום בתהילים כ"ז פסוק ג' אם תחנה עלי מחנה לא יירא ליבי, אם תקום עלי מלחמה בזאת אני בוטח. וזה עניין מתחלף לפי מעלת הבוטח ברוב קודשו. Translation: There is more to the trait of Bitachon, this trust in Hashem. For a Holy Spirit, a Ruach HaKodesh, rests upon the person who has Bitachon in Hashem. Yes, you heard me right. A person that acquires the highest level of Bitachon acquires Ruach HaKodesh. Not like the Christian idol worshippers that think that every Joe Schmo has Ruach HaKodesh because when the priest touched him, he fell on the floor. That whole mumbo-jumbo nonsense. Or every person that never learned anything of Chumash, but he thinks that God speaks to him. Why? Because he's so unique. No. Every Tuesday I get somebody else that thinks they're the Mashiach, or that God speaks to them personally, or some other craziness. No. Ruach HaKodesh is not something that you get confused by. Ruach HaKodesh is not something that you could just acquire in a deli. Ruach HaKodesh is not for everyone. But a person that acquires Bitachon, Chazon Ish says, acquires Ruach HaKodesh. Now, of course, there's levels in Ruach HaKodesh. But nonetheless, a person that has Bitachon acquires Ruach HaKodesh. Now, of course, if you go to Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah, and you go to the Mesilat Yesharim, he tells you exactly every single step, over 24 steps, of how to acquire Ruach HaKodesh. He tells you, you have to do this, you have to do this. In essence, you have to do tshuva at the highest possible level to acquire Ruach HaKodesh. So, do these things conflict? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, they don't conflict. Why? Because to acquire Ruach HaKodesh, the Gemara and the Mesilat Yesharim told you all of the steps. What the Chazon Ish is saying, the outcome of all of those steps is also acquiring Bitachon, which is going to lead you to the next step of having Ruach HaKodesh. Having Ruach HaKodesh. Why? To do all of those things, to follow all of those steps, you have to have more and more Bitachon, more and more confidence in Hashem that it's working, even if you don't see it working. So he says that Ruach HaKodesh rests upon a person who has confidence in Hashem, accompanied by strength of spirit that tells him that Hashem will indeed help him. As David HaMelech said in Psalm 27:3, if you bring a host upon me, my heart will have no fear. If a war comes upon me, in this I will trust. This matter varies according to the level of the person's trust, meaning the Bitachon in the person, and his degree of holiness. In other words, the conviction of a person who has complete Bitachon in Hashem can indeed bring about a good outcome as opposed to a bad one. This last explanation is one of the things we're going to focus on tonight, because this is one of the points that's commonly confused, where people think like these heretics that have this secret teachings. It's called the secret. It's so secretive that it's full of nonsense and no one actually even knows. Now, they think that if you have confidence that good things are going to happen, that in itself is going to bring good things. Now, the Chazon Ish already addressed this issue early on by saying it's complete nonsense, because who are you to tell Hashem what to do? Just because you have confidence something's going to happen, good things are going to happen. But yet over here, the explanation is saying that, wait, your conviction and the complete faith in Hashem can actually bring about a good outcome, meaning can influence it. So how is it not a contradiction? So now, first and foremost, a person needs to understand that Ruach HaKodesh is not something that is so easy to come by, because today people have no idea what it really means, so they think that every Joe Schmo that has a beard has Ruach HaKodesh. Why? He said something, and the 1 out of 100 chance, or 1 out of 2 chance, or whatever chance, it actually happened, or it's similar. He said there's going to be an earthquake, it ended up being a hurricane, but yeah, it's similar enough. This guy must have Ruach HaKodesh. He said that the Trump is going to lose. Oh, see, Trump lost. Oh, see, he has Ruach HaKodesh. Everybody thinks that every Joe Schmo has Ruach HaKodesh. Their rabbi has Ruach HaKodesh. This one has Ruach HaKodesh. Everybody has Ruach HaKodesh. They think they have a Ruach HaKodesh. The Truth is, Rabotai, is that first and foremost, a person needs to know that Ruach HaKodesh is not for everyone. Why? In order to have Ruach HaKodesh, a person has to be glued to Hashem. Glued to Hashem. As Shlomo HaMelech says in Kohelet, chapter 7, verse 8, it's Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 8, Tov acharit davar mireshito. The end of the matter is better than its beginning. Meaning that people always want the outcome. They watch certain shows and they see how this guy is living in a $50 million house and has $1 billion company. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be like him. Yeah, but that's great that you want to be like him, meaning you want to possess that car and that house and all those material things. That's fantastic, but are you willing to do what he did? Do you have ideas like he did? Are you making sacrifices like he did? Or is it, no, listen, I want to be like Rav Ovadia. I want to be like Rav Kanievsky. So I'm going to go learn. This whole week I learned 8 hours every day. I learned 12 hours every day. Okay, that's fantastic. You learned so much this week. But you realize that they've been doing it for 80 years. Like, 1 week is Chazaku Baruch, Kol HaKavod, but you got a long way to go before you start referring to yourself as rabbi. You got a long time to go. It doesn't work. Everybody wants to be the outcome. Everyone wants to be the outcome. Because why? The outcome always looks good. Truth is, though, is that if a person understood what it requires to do certain things, you'll see where he stands and where he wants to be, and he'll see how much of a gap there is. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to shoot for the moon, but you should also be realistic with yourself and know where you stand. Know where you stand. And this has a lot to do with when it comes to Judaism, when it comes to the Torah. And the reason why I say that is because for whatever reason or another, one of the greatest tricks that the Satan has ever implemented on mankind is still working despite our knowledge that it's a trick. What's the trick? He's tricking us that he doesn't exist. That's what he's been tricking us for years. Now all of us read about him every year. If you read the Chumash, you hear stories about Judaism and Torah. You hear Satan, Malach HaMavet, Yetzirah. Even if you don't hear about the names, you see people die. Obviously, they don't just go and decide to go somewhere else by themselves. There's an angel that takes their neshama. So everybody gets to meet the Malach HaMavet in one way or another in their life. You decide that you're going to do good things, but then you decide to do bad things. Against your own wishes, against your own desires, normally, you lose your mind. You end up cheating, you end up lying, you end up doing something bad. You realize it's an evil inclination that entices you to do something that's against your own nature. So, obviously, the Satan has something to do with it. He enticed you, he showed you that billboard to go to that place, and you ended up following it. Even though it's not your nature to typically do that. So that's the Yetzirah. Malach HaMavet, obviously everybody at some point, as the older you get, the more people that die. And that's just the reality of life. When you're 15, 17, 18, 20 years old, you feel strong, you feel like powerful, you feel like you're going to live forever, you're always going to be strong forever. That's why you're so arrogant, that's why you're so bold on everything. And then as you start getting older, you go into your 30s, you go into your 40s, little by little, life humbles you. Why? Because you start seeing that you're not all that. You're not all that. Your body doesn't function the same way. Your muscles are not as tense. Your knowledge is not as great as you thought it was, and so on and so forth. And some of life's decisions that you made, and some of the silly ones that you've made, have cost you dearly. The point being is that life in itself shows you that this Satan, this Malach HaMavet, this Yetzirah, whatever you want to call him, it has an effect on you. Now, but yet, despite our knowledge that he exists, he continues to fool us, and we forget about him. Over and over again. Over and over again, the Satan makes us forget about him. Over and over again, we think we're going to overcome him. Over and over again, we think we're going to do better. And this has everything to do with the Torah. Why? Because when it comes to a doctor giving you advice, says, listen, I think you should wear a mask, I think you should take a vaccine, I think you shouldn't wear a mask, I think you shouldn't take a vaccine. Whatever doctor's in front of you, that's who you respect. Doctor says, I think you need a surgery. Oh, wow, doc, thanks for telling me. You thank the guy that he's going to chop you up to pieces. You don't question a thing. 9 out of 10 people don't even go for a second opinion. Why? They trust the doctor because he has a bunch of plaques on the wall. No one necessarily verifies them. They may even be fake, but who knows? Point is, he has plaques on the wall. He has an outfit like every other doctor. He looks like he knows what he's doing. You listen to him. Lawyer tells you, listen, sir, listen, ma'am, it's going to cost you $25,000 to defend this case. You don't question him for a second, like, oh, wow, it's so expensive. I didn't know. No, nothing. Okay, do you take checks? Never question a fee, never nothing. Why? You're in trouble. He's supposedly the expert. And you say, okay, who do I make the check payable to? Who do I make the check payable to? You never question their fees. You never say, can you guarantee that I'm going to win? Are you sure I'm going to win? No. And even if they say, listen, I can't guarantee that I'm going to win, it still doesn't stop you from paying them the $25,000 retainer. And even if they tell you, listen, this is just a retainer, and there's no promise that this is going to be the end, it may be $250,000. No one ever questions them. Why? He's the lawyer. He's the doctor. The architect tells you, listen, sir, it's a really nice house, but I think you need to rebuild the foundation. Oh, okay. How much do I have to pay you? No one questions the guy. No one questions them. No one says, listen, you know what? I'm gonna bet on it. I'm just going to continue living in this house, and if it falls, okay, let me fall inside with it. No one does that. Why? We trust the professionals. We trust the experts. Why? He's been doing it for 5 years. He went to school for 10 years. He has a silly garment on that makes me think that he's good at what he does. He has a business card that looks pretty fancy. Probably cost him at least $1 a card. We have all types of things that we're so, enamored by. We don't question the professionals. And it's a professional of every kind. Of every kind. You go to the store. You tell the guy, listen, I want something to eat. The guy says, okay, what do you want to eat? He says, no, you know what? I trust you so much. Give me the best thing you have. Like you automatically trust that he knows your taste buds. And you tell him, listen, make me the best thing you have. Like as if the best thing he has, in his opinion, is the same thing you think the best thing is you have. You trust his opinion. Why? Because he's a chef. Because he cooks a bunch of food. So somehow he miraculously inherited your taste buds. But we don't question it. We don't question it. If we don't like it, we say, wow, you know what? I think it's because I drank a beer and that's why it doesn't taste good. You never blame the chef. What? He's the professional. It's a fancy schmancy restaurant. $150 plate with 2 little olives on it. We're fine. No problem. I was going to have a burger after I leave here because I'm really hungry. But nonetheless, we trust it. Why? It's expensive. It's fancy. It's schmancy. All that good stuff. They're the experts. We trust them. Satan does not get involved at all. At all. You want to trust the lawyer, the doctor, the chef, the mailman, whoever it is, trust them. The Satan doesn't tell you, listen, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't trust this lawyer. You know what? Maybe you shouldn't trust this doctor. I don't know. I don't like this doctor. Never. Never. He tells you something. Satan says, Kadosh. You say, Amen. Why? Has no impact whatsoever on your eternity. No impact whatsoever on your eternity. But when the rabbis come, and they tell you what the Chazon Ish has been telling us, what the Rambam has been telling us, what Moshe Rabbeinu has been telling us for 3,300 years, and he tells you, if you continue violating Shabbat, not only will you end up going to Gehenom for eternity and suffer more pain in 1 second than the entire 6 million people that died, the entire 6 million Jews that got murdered in the Holocaust suffered for all the years that they were there. You'll suffer more in 1 minute than Gehenom if you continue violating Shabbat. I mean, not only that, you'll suffer in this world too. You'll have a miserable life. Most likely your marriage is not going to be happy. Your kids are going to be terrible. Your whole life is going to be upside down. Why? Because all of the bracha that you have the whole week starts with what you do on Shabbat. You don't want to keep Shabbat? Okay, prepare for a miserable life. Yeah, but Rabbi, but I know a lot of guys, that are rich and powerful, and they have this and they have that. They don't keep Shabbat. Wait, hold on a second. How come you're so bold with your question and your assumptions that first and foremost, you're even asking me? I'm the professional. No, I read the books. You didn't read the books. What makes you think that you know better than me? That's question number 1. Number 2, when did you become a private investigator / prophet to know how happy he really is with all of his billions? Do you know what happens behind closed doors? What, just because he shows up on television with a fancy car in the background that may as well be a hologram, you think he's happy? What makes you think that's right? What makes you think that his wife really wants to be his wife? What makes you think that his kids that are happy in the picture are as happy after the picture? What makes you think that his smile is real? What makes you think all of this stuff? Why? Just because you see him on TV, and if it's on TV, if it's on a screen, it must be true. How come you're so confident questioning the rabbis here, but you're not even going to question the lawyer, the doctor, the chef, the clerk, anybody else? You know why? Because the Satan has fooled you too. He fooled you so much when he didn't show up to the lawyer's meeting. He didn't show up to the doctor meeting. He didn't show up to any meeting that you have in your life. He only showed up to the meeting you had with the rabbi. And there he says, know what? That rabbi, I think he has an agenda. That rabbi, he's telling you why. He's telling you that you should change your life. Why, you should keep Shabbat. You should leave your boyfriend. You should stop stealing from customers. No, come on, this rabbi, if he was getting the money from you, he probably wouldn't mind you stealing. Nah, if he had your wife, he probably wouldn't care that she's not Jewish. Come on, if he had so much fun as much as you do on Shabbat, he probably violates Shabbat too. He starts putting all types of junk in your head to make you think otherwise. All of a sudden he says, you know what, listen, these rabbis, all of them have a different opinion. And you know what, let's just go find a different rabbi. Let's go, rabbi shopping. Like, there's a Macy's for clothes and there's a JCPenney for, let's go find, rabbi shopping. We'll go to Hollywood Boulevard. We'll find, maybe a rabbi or two for you. You know what? If you really like them, we'll buy you 3. And that's what happens. This entire generation, unfortunately, has victims after victims of not only their own mistakes, of rabbi shopping, of people that simply fell for the trap of the Satan and didn't realize that he exists and he's the one that's giving them the questions in their head, but unfortunately an entire generation of rabbis that have fell for the same trap to tell them that they know better than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. By them telling people, listen, no matter what you do, you're okay, Hashem loves you, no matter what, Hashem cares about you. The Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin says that, Am Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to you, whether you're good or you're bad, ben kach or ben kach, you're still my children, and they'll completely distort that Gemara to tell you that no matter what you do, you can be a sinner, you can be Rasha, it's okay.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm from Southern California and I'm studying chemistry. I grew up secular, so my question is, what does it mean to be a bad Jew? Are people who are more observant better than people who are less observant? And is it possible to lose your Jewish identity, specifically in the eyes of God and as it pertains to the afterlife? Thank you.
I'm going to be honest with you, Anna. It's hard for me to answer this question without crying. I know that sounds a little bit silly, maybe a little bit immature. It's hard for me to answer without crying. Our sages tell us in the Talmud, a tractate that's called Kiddushin, Bein kach u bein kach atem kruyim bonim, that whether you're a good child or you're a bad child, so to speak, you're my child, you're my children. My wife and I have brought to the world 7 children. Sometimes it was 1 or 2 of our children that behaved in a bad way. But the children are not bad children. They're beautiful children. They're not bad children. Most of the time is they didn't understand that behavior was not appropriate. Once they understood, they were thrilled, they were happy. They wanted to be good. Anna, if you knew that and if I knew that, and we felt it in the deepest way, we'd want to do everything we could possibly do to make our Father happy. But because somewhere along the way, somehow, people get this idea that, if you don't do this, you're bad. And bad people go to a bad place. After this bad world, they go to a bad place, which is even worse than this world. And it's because of the bad publicity that God has that people give up. They give up being good. Everybody's good. Everybody's good. Ben kach u ben kach atem kruyim bonim. Whether you behave well or you misbehave, you're my child. God doesn't look at any one of us as being bad. The same way that I don't look at my kids or grandchildren as being bad. I can see them as being uninformed, mistaken, and I'm going to try to find ways, sometimes it'll hurt, to find ways to help them encounter the good within themselves. So Anna means to beg. I beg of you. I beg you. Drop this thought of bad. Nobody's bad. Uninformed, misdirected, ignorant, sometimes immature, sometimes silly. But not bad. Not bad.
The rabbi is making a mistake. The student doesn't know what he's talking about, but the student likes it. Why? Because his mistake fits his agenda. And the Satan is dancing. Why? Everybody fell for the same trap. Everybody fell for the same trap. Abutay Karim, I always tell you, being skeptical is good. It's good. But as long as you're an honest skeptic, and not a skeptic for the sake of excuses. If you're a skeptic because you really want to find the truth, our entire Torah is built on that. The entire oral Torah is one Chacham after another questioning the other Chacham. Not because they don't believe each other, but they're putting the truth to the fire to see whether it's going to stand a test. Can it answer this? Can it answer this? Can it answer this? Can it answer this? If it can answer all of these different corners, halacha. If it could withstand the test, halacha. That's the law then. That's the truth. But if you cannot defend yourself against all of these different questions and there's contradictions and so on and so forth, then obviously there has to be a better answer. So the whole nature of Judaism and our entire oral Torah is skepticism for the sake of truth. It's good. But if you're skeptic without really chasing the truth, you just want to say, listen, the rabbis always argue, so therefore I'm allowed to argue. The rabbis have a lot of opinions, so therefore I'll throw my opinion in there also. Wait a minute. So if a bunch of doctors argued among themselves, surgery, 50 of them said surgery, one guy said no surgery, and it's you being the body. You say, you know what? I'm going to listen to that one guy. I'm going to completely discount 50 doctors, 50 world experts that are trying to save my life. I'm going to listen to this guy and see he says no surgery. I like him. I like the price also of no surgery. It's free. I like this guy. You're just going to discount the 50 just like that? Probably not. Why? Your life's on the line. 50 lawyers tell you, listen, you got to sue. You got to defend yourself. You got to go this. You got to use this witness. You got to do all these different things. One Joe Schmo just graduated high school says, hey, listen, sir, I don't know. If I was you, I wouldn't do nothing. I just continue, keep taking the government's money. Keep it. Yeah, but 50 people are saying I'm stealing from the government. Yeah, they're saying this. Who says they're right? I don't know. They just showed me the law. They showed me the proof in the Constitution and the law and the legal and the this and the that. They showed me everything. Yeah, but listen. It's a lot of ooze. You really think the government cares about you? You're such a puny person. They have a lot of bigger fish to fry. Listen to me. Don't do nothing. Keep making your money. You gonna listen to that guy? Or you gonna say, what are you, a joker? You playing with my life? You want me to go to jail? What's the matter with you? What are you gonna say? You're gonna ignore 50 lawyers, 50 world experts trying to save your life, trying to save your assets, trying to save your business? Or you're gonna listen to some Joe Schmo? Because he's wearing a suit also. The reality is when it comes to the doctor, to the lawyer, to the experts, you don't question. Why? They say you do. When it comes to the rabbis, and I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about Rambam, I'm talking about Chazon Ish, I'm talking about Rabbi Ovadia, Rabbi Elyashiv, Gdolei Olam, the giants of the world, the ones the whole world had a right to exist because of. They say something. You decide you're going to question it. Why? You want to be a rationalist. Because you think that you understand what it is. This is the Satan. This is the Yetzirah, and this is the Malach HaMavet, all in one. All in one. And it all stems from lack of Bitachon. It all begins with lack of Bitachon. Why lack of Bitachon? If a person had as much Bitachon, not in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but in his sages, in his system of delivering us the truth through his sages, as much confidence in them and in that system as we do in the medical system, in the legal system, in the school system, in the food administration. If we had even half the confidence in the Torah as we do in everything else, Mashiach would have already arrived, because we would all be tzaddikim. We'd all be tzaddikim. But the truth be told is, Rabotai, is that all of us have failed one time or another, and sometimes more than one time, to thinking that we have a better idea than the Rambam and the Poskim and so on and so forth, without even knowing how to read. I mean, I can tell you the truth. Listen, I thought I was one of the smartest people in the world at some point. Not literally, but, in my own mind, I thought that I was really smart. I had a lot of money, and I wasn't necessarily a stupid person. I was in advanced classes when I was a kid. I had good grades, and blah, blah, blah. And I thought that, listen, I could just transfer this intellect from Wall Street, from a person that can analyze any company, any product, anything, and I could just transfer it to the Torah world. I thought, it's a piece of cake. Okay, so I can analyze stocks, I can analyze bonds, I can analyze the financial balance sheet of all types of entities. I can tell you if an institution is going to declare bankruptcy years before it does, currencies, all types of wonderful things. So I figured I could just transfer this to the Torah world. Piece of cake. Until one day, I open a Yabia Omer, one of the holy Sfarim by Rabbi Ovadia. And I go through an halacha. And I'm with my Rav, and he's explaining it to me, and I'm reading it, and he's explaining it to me, and I'm reading it, and I have no idea what is going on. None. Nothing. Even after he explained it, even after I read it, I have no idea what's being said. I never felt dumber in my life. But not dumber like I have some type of mental deficiency, but rather how a human mind could even arrive at such a thought process that's so elevated above mankind. I thought this might as well have been written by God himself. How do you arrive at these conclusions? How did you do this analysis? Who thinks like this? How do you remember all these things? How did you connect all of these things? To write this single tshuva, you must have brought 150, 200 different sources over the last 3,000 years. How do you do that without a computer? How do you do that with a computer? And how do you even understand it? I could understand, okay, at the end, I said, okay, is it allowed or not allowed? An hour later, allowed or not allowed? Well, it's not allowed. Oh, so why couldn't you just write not allowed? Why couldn't you just write not allowed? Why do you have to torture me the whole time to get to the not allowed? Why couldn't you just write not allowed? I was complaining. Rabbi Yaron says to me, that's not what the Torah is about. It's not yes, no. What is this? Yes, no? What do you think this is? We have to tell you how to arrive at the truth, to analyze every single corner in the world, and to tell you that wherever you go, we checked. It's not like the medical world. I know we're going to try it. What do you mean going to try? You're going to try this thing that may kill me? Yeah, we're going to try it. What if it doesn't work? Well, if it doesn't work, you're not going to know about it. Why wouldn't I know? Oh, you'll be dead. Oh, if you want, we don't have to try it. And then what's going to happen? You'll be dead also. That's not how the Torah world works. The Torah world's Rabotai Karim, Ar Chachamim. They searched every single hole, every single book, every single ounce of Torah that was available to them to arrive at the truth. And they questioned every aspect of it. And when I saw this answer, I said to myself, I don't know anything. Now you would think, oh wow, well, Baruch Hashem, a lot has changed since that happened. Nothing has changed. Even after all these years, I still know nothing. After all of these years, you think I know a lot. The reality is the more you learn, the more you realize you know nothing. Now, yes, I have some basic information that I deliver to you, that we talk, that we learn, sure, but the more you learn, the more you realize how much information is available, how much more Torah is available, and the more you realize how much more you're missing. And only the Satan can confuse you to think that you know better than them. Why? Because no rational, honest human being would ever think for a second, that they know better than the poskim, better than our sages. But the Satan will tell you otherwise. He won't tell you to question the doctor. He won't tell you to question the lawyer. He won't tell you to question anybody. But the rabbi will tell you to question. Why? Because that rabbi is ruining my whole job, that Satan says. He's trying to get you to heaven. That's going to ruin my whole business. Why? If he gets everybody to heaven, Gehenom's going to be empty. What am I going to do, the Satan says? Listening to the Satan is only going to lead you to a place you don't want to be in. But unfortunately, Rabotai, unless you identify the Satan for being what it is, you're already trapped. You're already in the trap. So, many times, a person wants the outcome. She wants to have Ruach HaKodesh. He wants to have Ruach HaKodesh. They want to have this divine spirit that in essence tells them what Hashem is thinking, if you will. Gives them a guidance, but not like a normal person giving you directions, but rather you're sure this is the way. A certainty. Everybody wants this. Chazon Ish says you can get it, but the price is not cheap. How do you get it? Of course, the steps you can see in detail in the Mesilat Yesharim, in the Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah, and a few other places, in Reshit Chochmah, and so on. But start with this. Start with a single thing. Bitachon. Bitachon. Having confidence in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That is a fundamental trait to have. A fundamental possession to have in order to even have a chance of ever acquiring Ruach HaKodesh. Now, who knows better than the Chafetz Chaim, Alav Shalom, about the human mind and its flaws? In his Sefer called Shem Olam, in Chelek Aleph, Perek Gimel, 1-3. He says, and I'm translating it to English, if you ask a person, do you believe that Hashem is overseeing this lowly world? Surely the person will respond, of course. You ask a person, you think Hashem's running the world. If that person is not an atheist or some type of mental case, he'll tell you, sure, of course. It's running the world. I mean, the world didn't come by itself. The plant didn't just appear. Even if you want to believe that somehow a rock turns into all life form, once and never again, still, where did the first rock come from? And if the first rock came from God, why are you limiting this God then? If he could create this one rock that can turn into human life, then therefore he could also do anything else, which means that he doesn't need the rock to turn into human life. He could simply just make humans, and just make chickens, and just make everything. Once you understand that there has to be a God, there has to be a creator, why limit him? So you ask any Joe Schmo, you say, listen, you believe that God? Sure, I believe in God. You ask a person that's frum, a person that's religious, do you believe that God is overseeing everything? I'll tell you, sure. Well, of course, amen. What do you mean? Well, of course. What do you think, I'm a kofar? They'll look at you funny. Why are you asking such a silly question? Of course I believe God believes. I wouldn't be a Jew if otherwise. Chafetz Chaim continues. Surely he'll also respond, of course, but if we investigate further, we'll see that it's just the mouth speaking, but it's not really the same in his innards, in his inner heart. Because if we really believed that there would never, if we really believed that God is monitoring everything, that God is watching everything, that God created everything, if we really believed that, there would never be theft. There would never be one Jew hurting another, one person hurting another. Because we know that Hashem is watching us. Right before you take that $1, that $1 million, that whatever it is, from some place that doesn't belong to you, right before you do it, wait, oh, God, you're here? Oh, you're still here. Oh, okay, forget it. I didn't want it anyway. I'm going to go. If you really believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching, you never take a single penny that's not yours. You'd never take a single penny that's not yours. Better yet, you'd never offend a single person. The second before you're about to just destroy this person that's in front of you because they did whatever they did to you, you're like, wait, hold on. Oh, that's, you're here, God. Oh, you're here. Wow. You're here. All right, I didn't know you. Oh, you're here. Okay. That's your son. Oh, I was just about to tell him something. Oh, you know what I was going to tell him. But I didn't tell him, though. Okay. I'll go now. I'll go. The second before you're about to curse this person out, the second before you're about to insult your own wife, your own husband, your own child, you realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is next to you. You're like, hold on a second. I'm about to do this to his daughter, to his son. No, I never. I was just kidding. I didn't mean to. The second you understand that the King of Kings, the one that controls whether you live or die, the one who controls whether you have money or not, the one who controls whether you're going to breathe one more second, the second you realize he's there watching, everything changes. Everybody has a lot of confidence in their future, but very few understand the reality. My dear father, God bless him, told me a story that, mamash, it broke my heart, but taught me a lot of MUSSAR. I may have told you this, but it's worth to tell you again. Just a few weeks ago, he says that there was a guy, nice guy. He used to have lunch with him every single day. For 20 years, they were friends. For 20 years, they know each other or more. They work together, and, oh Hashem, they have lunch together. They chit-chat every day. He says, that day, one day I decided that my mom decided to make them sandwiches, and for my father to bring it to the office instead of ordering things, she made them sandwiches, and they're gonna eat together lunch anyway. So she made both of them sandwiches. Oh Hashem, my mom has a big heart, so when she makes a sandwich, it's for two, but each sandwich. So she gives them 2 sandwiches for 2 people each. Shtabach Shimo. Sandwiches are the best sandwiches in the world. Now, she takes the sandwiches, they sit down, they have their typical lunch, Baruch Hashem, they talk, they chit-chat, but it's a big sandwich, so I say, you know what, I'm going to finish the second half later. Okay, I'll see you later. My father is in his office, his friend David leaves, he says, I'll see you later, we'll eat together later, we'll finish the sandwich together later. So he goes about his business, and my father goes to his business, and he does whatever he does. A few hours pass, and he calls. No answer. Calls again. No answer. Okay, maybe he's busy. Calls again. No answer. He goes downstairs. He says, hey, listen, you guys see David? Oh, you didn't know? No. What do you mean I didn't know? What happened? He just died. What? What do you mean he just died? What? He just died. He had a heart attack and he died in the middle of 47th Street. If that doesn't shock you, you have to check your pulse. A person has confidence that he's going to be here in 20 years and therefore he prepares his 401k savings and his retirement plan and his stock accounts and his vacation house and his savings plan and his shoes and his clothes and his dreams and his aspirations. And the reality is he has no idea whether he's going to survive the next few hours to finish a sandwich. A sandwich. Rabotai. Satan is fooling all of us to think big. Why? When you think big about everything else, you forget the reality that's small and it's in front of you. And therefore, Rabotai Karim, the Chazon Ish tells us, if we knew who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, if we really believed in Him, We would never steal. We would never hurt each other. We would know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching every single thing that we're doing, and we'd never perform a single mitzvah out of casualty or lackings in any mitzvah whatsoever. Our great sins have brought us to a point where we don't even delve into this matter, saying we believe even though we don't. This, Rabotai, is the Chafetz Chaim going inside your mind and telling you what you really think. You can tell yourself whatever you want. Chazon Ish went into your mind. Chafetz Chaim went into your mind, tells you, okay, I removed the Yetzer Hara for you. This is what the truth looks like. You think you believe. Reality, you have work to do. You have work to do. Why? Satan's fooling you. How do you know you don't have all the confidence in the world? Look at the performance of your mitzvot. When you wake up in the morning and you say, Modeh ani lefanecha melechai v'kayam. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you, the living God. Are you really thanking Him? Bemet, between us, no one's going to tell you. You really thanking Him that you just woke up? Or you say, I'm so tired. Oh, for another day. My back hurts after I'm sleeping. What do you mean? If I wake up with a backache, then what's the point of sleep? Are you waking up saying thank you? Before you eat something in the morning, and you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, borei minei mezonot, borei zeh, all the blessings. Saying Baruch, you're blessing Hashem. Are you really blessing Hashem? Or it's more like, just give me this sandwich already, but I got to get out of my obligation to tell Hashem thank you. So, Baruch, yalla, Baruch. Are you really, is it really Baruch, or is it like, let me just get this thing done so I can eat this apple? When you go to the bathroom and you say Asher Yatzar, you say, Baruch atah Hashem, thank you Hashem for making my body with holes and empty, isn't it? Are you really thanking Him for the holes? Are you really thanking Him for the closures? Are you really thanking Him for all the inner surfaces that you have, all of these different things? You're really thinking about all of those things that are happening in your body? Or like, listen, I went to the bathroom, there's a poster that says BeEzrat Hashem on it, with a Sheyetzal, someone says I have to read it, so I read it. Listen, if you're reading it because it says to read it, good. But don't say that you have so much Bitachon. Why? If you have Bitachon, that means that you have a clarity that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is here. Right now. All the time. But not just here. With you. He's everywhere. Meaning, when you're saying Asher Yatzar, He's right there saying, no. You're going to thank me for the body that just worked and you just were able to get rid of all the toxins? You're going to say thank you at least? Before you eat the apple, He's right there looking at you. No. You're going to say something? I give you the apple. You're going to say, you know what I had to do to make that apple? I'd take rain that came from nothing, rain that came from the earth, some mud water, okay? Take that water, went back into the clouds, cleaned up the whole thing, now comes back down. That goes down exactly where it needs to come down for that tree. That tree, it wasn't always a tree, it was a seed. That seed had to go into the ground at the right place, at the right time, at the right temperature, then go rotten, completely get destroyed in order for it to go and be a plant. A plant becomes a tree. That tree has to have a lot of rain for its whole long time in order for it to bear fruit. And guess what? Those fruit didn't just fall off the tree by themselves and arrive in your supermarket. I had to bring some people that didn't have another job, so they got a job at the farm. What? To take down the apples. And they didn't just take down the apples. They took down the good apples. And then they put the apples in the store, in the shelf, into this, into that, with the trucks, with the gasoline. And don't think about the gasoline. You know how much work has to go for that gasoline to be gasoline, for the truck to work, to get to your supermarket? And on top of that, what do you think? The truck got there by itself? What do you think? It has tires. Where do you think the tires came from? Came from oil, came from rubber, came from this, came from that. You know how many different people had to work for that wheel to actually be a wheel? And what do you think? The wheel is the biggest thing of the car? No, there's an engine. You know how many parts the engine has and how many people had to work to make that engine work? And what about the steering wheel? It looks like a piece of plastic, a piece of wood, a piece of nothing, but if it wasn't for the steering wheel working with the right amount of liquids, going from here, going from there, going from this, going from there, nothing would work and the apple would never arrive. And on top of that, somebody has to drive it. And the person that drives it, what do you think? He just drives by himself? He has to have all of the enzymes, all of the proteins, all of the chemicals, all of the different things in his brain, in his heart, in his lungs, in his arms, in his blood system, in order for him to know when to turn. Just simply know when to turn. And all of these different things, and 1.5 million other things had to happen in order for the apple to arrive at the store. And for you to arrive at the store to get the apple. But guess what? There's still a lot more to do. Why? You have to have money to buy the apple. And what do you think? The money just arrived in your pocket? No! It had to be made by somebody, even if it's not you. So now, before you eat that apple, can you at least say thank you? And guess what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right there, looking at you, saying, are you going to say thank you or no? Are you going to say thank you for that apple? Or are you just going to eat like an animal? You're going to eat without saying thank you. Rabotai Karim, if our mitzvot are done in such a way where we can't wait to complete them, that is a lacking of our Bitachon. That is a lacking on our emunah. Why? We're not realizing that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is here. Not he's gonna come here, not maybe here, not potential. He's here now, all the time, watching you, me, everything. It's not a shaliach, it's not an angel, it's not a messenger, it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu himself watching. A person that realizes that, the Chafetz Chaim says, would never be lackings in his mitzvot. Would never for a second think about wasting seed. Doesn't matter who's in front of him. Doesn't matter what he sees. Because he knows the Gemara Masechet Nida, page 13, says, every single time there's a seed that comes out of a human body, that seed doesn't just come from nowhere. That seed, a malach takes that seed and goes up to Borei Shel Olam. He goes to Ishtabach Shemo La'al. He goes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this seed, what is it going to be with this seed? What will it be with this seed? Is it going to be a boy? Is it going to be a girl? Is it going to be rich? Is it going to be poor? Is it going to be tall, short? What is it going to be with this seed, Ribono Shel Olam? And I have 100 million other ones I'm going to bring you too. Before a person even thinks about looking at pornography, looking at anything that will cause him to ejaculate without that seed having the proper destination, he will think 500 million times. Why? Because he knows that the second that he's even thinking the wrong thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is inside his mind saying, are you kidding me? That's what you're thinking about? I gave you a Torah Kedosha. I gave you Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu, who gave you Torah. He was in Mount Sinai 40 days, 40 nights, 3 times without eating and drinking. He had to learn with me Chavruta. Brought you the Torah, Bechtav, Baal Peh, the oral, the written Torah. And this is what you're thinking about? That's all you have in your mind? Pornography, filth? This is what you're thinking about? Rabotai Karim, we live in a generation where you have awful situations happening everywhere for all types of unusual things. I've seen all types of horrible things, but unfortunately, every week there's new stories that beat the old ones. New stories that beat the old ones. Now, some things that are written in books, you read them and you say, wow, hopefully I never get to see this. Hopefully this doesn't exist. But unfortunately, it exists. Just recently, I found out something that was baffling to me. One 5-year-old raped another 5-year-old. Both Jewish people. Both Jewish kids. And I say to myself, hold on a second. How do you even have a sex drive? What's going on here? What are you, are you sure you're 5? Sure. Yeah, well, sure. And I'm asking these questions uncomfortably, but nonetheless, obviously it's a traumatizing experience, but nonetheless, I'm asking these questions. I mean, the boy is already much older now, but I'm asking these questions not because of him, because of me. I'm just trying to get my head around it. And then we look at the books, and we say, yeah, 100%. This is written. This is written. How is this written? Chachamim teach us. If at the time the husband and the wife are together, they're thinking filthy thoughts that they saw in pornography. They're thinking filthy thoughts that they saw in the streets. They're thinking filthy thoughts that they desire from all types of unusual things that they see on TV, whether it's animals mating, which you're forbidden to watch, or it's all types of people, all types of things, and they're thinking at the time of the maaseh itself, that thought goes into the seed itself and affects the children. Hashem yishmor v'yatzil. Therefore, there are some children that are born already from the start with filthy, disgusting habits already at 5 years old. What we thought is not even humanly possible, unfortunately, is happening. A person that has Bitachon is not just a person who's going to think about Hashem is watching when he's making money or when he's stealing money. He's not going to think about Hashem about, oh, am I going to find my shidduch? Am I not going to find my shidduch? No! A person that has Bitachon is going to think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the most private moments in the world. That's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is most present. When nobody else is there, just you can't think it's just you. Why? Because it's not just you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there that moment. And before you decide to take action and do something that's forbidden, you should know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there watching you and saying, please don't. Please don't do it. Don't force me to do that to you. Don't force me to punish you, my dear son. Don't force my hand. A person that has Bitachon, Rabotai Yekarim, takes advantage of an auspicious time like we have right now, started this week, started today. Throughout the whole time of Sefer Shmot, the book of Exodus, it's called a time of Shovavim. This time of Shovavim is an auspicious time to do Tikkun BeIt. Every single person that's ever been promiscuous, either with themselves or with others, has wasted seed, has been promiscuous with men, men with men, women with women, women with men, whatever it is, anything that's out of the normal, permissible marriage. Anyone that has wasted seed, or even did anything else otherwise that's forbidden in the Torah according to Kadosh Baruch Hu, has to do the tikkunim now. Technically they could do it tomorrow, they could do it yesterday, they could do it any other time, but has to do it now in a sense that this is the auspicious time where the gates of heaven are open wider for those people that want to do tshuva. So whether it's to learn the subject more thoroughly at this time, this is the time where your brain will open up wider. Whether it's to do tshuva for it and stop it, this is the time that you should take action. Whether it's to donate money for the sake of the tikkunim, every single time you wasted seed, every time you were promiscuous, every time you performed a homosexual act, or whatever otherwise, this is the time to do it. Why? This is Zman of Shovavim. This is Zman of Shovavim throughout the whole time that we read Sefer Shmot, the book of Exodus. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to do it this way. Chachamim tell us in the beginning of Parashat Shmot, we already learned that 70 souls came down to Egypt with Yaakov. But they don't want to just call it 70 souls that came from his loins. That was his seed, the seed of Yaakov, the Kedusha of Yaakov. Am Yisrael's Kedusha starts with there. That's why the whole issue of the BEIT is called Kedusha. Why? The whole Kedusha of Am Yisrael starts with how they have Bitachon and Hashem when it's in private. When no one else is around. Why? Because everybody can be an actor. Everybody can be an actor in a shul, in front of people, in the business, in front of people, behind a screen with a computer, and so by yourself. Let's see who you are. Let's see how much bitachon you have. Do you really believe that Hashem is watching you? Then how come you're about to waste seed? Then how come you're about to violate Shabbat? Then how come you're about to cheat? Then how come you're about to lie? Then how come you're about to do all these things that are against the Kadosh Baruch Hu? How come? The Chafetz Chaim tells us, Rabotai Yekarim, that if a person has bitachon, he can get to Ruach HaKodesh, But not just because the Bitachon just arrives in your mail next to your bank statement, but rather because that Bitachon will force you to perfect your actions with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because the more you recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is present, the more embarrassed you are to go against him. The less sins you make, the more mitzvot you make, the more good things you do, the more you acquire of him in your life, the more glued you are to him. And that in itself gets you to a higher level. Now, the Chafetz Chaim had a Talmid that was well known, Rav Mordechai Zuckerman. And he was a huge Baal Bitachon. Everyone said that this is the number one student of the Chafetz Chaim when it comes to Bitachon. He lived Bitachon. They asked Rav Zuckerman, Kvod Rav, what is Emunah? What's Emunah? He says to them, Emunah is Im bechukotai telechu. If you will follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu's rules, it'll be good. If not, it'll be a Holocaust. That's Emunah. Now you may say, oh, whoa, that's kind of harsh. We can't. That's the truth. That's 100% Emunah. And this is not coming from someone who doesn't know what the Holocaust is. As Rav Zuckerman was a Holocaust survivor himself. And he's telling you, I know what the Holocaust is. If you follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu's rules, you don't have to worry about the Holocaust. If you don't, Holocaust is coming. Just a matter of time. Personal Holocaust, national Holocaust, Hashem Yishmo. One of them is happening. One of them is happening. They asked the Rav, did at any moment during the Holocaust, concentration camps, Jews are dying like flies. Do you ever have any questions about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, any doubts? Rav Zuckerman says, Chas v'shalom, ma pidam, never, not even once. In fact, the opposite. When we were in the depths of the Gehenom in this world of the Holocaust, I knew I needed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I knew his hand is monitoring every single thing more then than ever in my life. In the Holocaust, I realized how great HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. Why? He promised and he delivered. He promised and he delivered. The Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin, page 82, there's a Mishnah. Mishnah says some interesting things. One of the things it says, talks about living and so on, says the Asapanim, Rubam Chasidim. The sailors are pious, many of them are pious men. Now, of course, in today's world, sailors have an awful reputation, but here, the Mishnah says many sailors are pious men, they're righteous men. Chachamim say, why sailors? Why sailors are pious men? It's because sailors, like everybody else, before they were at the ocean, they thought they're strong. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to do this. Why? They're on solid ground. Everything they can pick up the house. But when you go into the ocean, and whether you look right, left, doesn't make a difference. There's just water. There's nothing. You realize how insignificant you are. You realize that the depth of the ocean is beyond something that you could comprehend. The height of the sky is beyond your imagination. You have no concept of right, left, and the waves are bigger than your ship, no matter how big your ship is. There are some fish that are bigger than your ship. The reality is when you hit a storm in the ocean, virtually no one thinks they're going to survive. He says the sailors, they're mostly pious. Why? They went through hell in the ocean. They saw it. And they started praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? They saw what's going on. They realized how much of a nothing they are in the ocean. They're not like you that's on land thinking that you could do whatever you want because everything is within reach to you. Everything is relatively easy to you. You're on solid ground. You can jump. You can do this. You can do that. You think that you're a big deal. Why? Because you have a few dollars in the bank and you have a car. You think you're a big deal. The sailor, he went into the ocean. He realized, doesn't matter how big my ship is, it's still nothing. Doesn't matter how much experience I have, it's still nothing. The sailor knows what he's talking about. Why? He went through it. But this Mishnah says some other things that are interesting. The Mishnah here says, anyone whose business is with women, meaning his trade provides for the needs of women, clothing stores and otherwise, may not be alone even with many women. Meaning that any man that's in the clothing business, women clothing business, always has to have other people with him. Why? Ideally, he shouldn't even be in the business of dealing with women. Why? You lead you to the sin. A man should not teach his son a trade that involves women. Don't teach your son to be a hairdresser. Don't teach your son to deal with women things. Why? It'll lead to sin again. Rabbi Meir says, one should always teach his son to clean and easy trade. Good job, simple job. That is relatively easy. He doesn't have to go to school for 500 years. He doesn't have to be a rocket scientist. Something that he can just make a basic living on. Whatever he can make. Something that's easy to do. Why? So he doesn't spend all of his time studying secular studies and end up not having any time to learn Torah. But then you're going to say, wait a minute, but if he's going to become that, he can work in a deli and then he's not going to make any money. How is he going to live off of $500 a week? Well, if he doesn't go to med school, doesn't go to law school, doesn't go to engineering school, doesn't go to this school and that school, how could he ever make anything out of himself? Those words are words of kfirah. Those words are words of heresy. Why? The Mishnah continues. And he should pray. He should pray to he to whom all wealth and possessions belong to. Because there is no trade that does not include indigence and wealth. For poverty is not the result of a trade, nor is wealth the result of a trade. Rather, all is in accordance with one's merit. A Jew thinks like this. A Jew that has the right HaShkafa doesn't look for a career in order for that career to make him a certain amount of money. Why? Because the Mishnah, the foundation of our oral Torah, tells us otherwise. First and foremost, don't waste your time going to school. Get enough school that you know basics of something, and that's it. Get a job already. Why? What about how about making money? There are plenty of people that have made money without going to school for 100 years. There are plenty of people that have given themselves enough time to learn Torah and not spend all their time chasing some type of trade because they assume they need to have all of this teaching in order to make money. Why? Because the Mishnah here says, and if the Mishnah here says, this is the thoughts of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is what our rules are, this is what our HaShkafa is supposed to be, our ideology is supposed to be. There is no such thing as a trade that has no millionaires in it. There is no such thing. And there is no such thing as poverty that doesn't come from any trade. I can tell you this from personal experience, not that you need it because the Mishnah is more than enough. But I was in a business where I dealt with rich people. That's what was my client. If you weren't rich, you just weren't my client. Once in a blue moon, a friend of a friend, a cousin, or something like that would be referred, and I would in essence have to take the business as a courtesy to the client that I had that was rich. But nonetheless, if I acquired you as a client, it was because you were rich, not because I liked your personality or your hairdo. Why? It's a money business. The whole goal is, you give me a bunch of money, I invest the money to give you a bunch more money back. That's in essence the whole goal of it. That's in essence what investment's all about. Now, of course, you do your best. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But the point being is, that's in essence what the whole job is. So, by doing that for almost 20 years, I saw all types of professions. I met all types of entrepreneurs, all types of executives of public companies, billionaires, startups, all types of things. People that were at Google, people that were at Apple, people that were in sports, people that were just average Joes. You're never going to hear their name in the news, but they're multimillionaires. I had one client that made literally millions upon millions of dollars by selling dog food. Dog food. Now, of course, dog food today, you say, oh, dog food's a big industry today. Yeah, but it wasn't always. No one even thought about selling dog food 70, 80 years ago. Why? You just give them whatever you didn't eat. When I grew up, there wasn't such a thing as a dog food in Israel, or at least not something that we knew about. Why? We just gave our dog whatever we didn't eat. That was the dog food. Give him special food? Well, he was clever enough, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the wisdom to say, okay, make packaged food and sell it in stores and people can actually buy it. And guess what? People did. People did. Add another person, knew absolutely nothing about farming, but figured, you know what, I have a few dollars, let me go buy a tractor. He bought a tractor, then another tractor, then another tractor, rented them out. Long story short, made millions of dollars in the tractor business. Tractors. Another person built homes. Another person did all types of other investments. All types of things that you would think, oh, okay, yeah, after the fact, of course it makes perfect sense. Why? Because you're seeing the bank account is huge. But when they first started, it's like, why would you do that? Why would you make that? Why would you do that? On the other hand, you think, oh yeah, well, sure, if he's a lawyer, if he's a this, guess what? A lot of people think that lawyers and doctors are the only ones that make money. There's plenty of people that make 1,000,000 times more than them. But they're your average guy. They look like they're just blue-collar people. They look like they're worth $5, but they have a mansion, $5, $10, $20 million. Why? They make their money plumbing. I had a guy made about $50 million plumbing. Plumbing. Changing the toilets? Yeah, changing toilets. Made $50 million. Another guy, UPS driver, made $10 million. $10 million. Till this day, he's driving a truck. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes millionaires in every job. If you're going to spend your Torah time studying secular subjects in order to acquire wealth, you're making a mistake of your life. Why? Money is not made because of the profession you chose. Money is not made because of how high your IQ is. I met plenty of people that have extremely high IQ and are broke. I had guys that were Harvard graduates, top of their class. They couldn't make a nickel if the nickel was thrown at them. Simply couldn't do it. All types of people, Rabotai, that literally made a fortune, and some people, they had the perfect job. One guy literally inherited a business worth millions of dollars, put it all the way under the ground. Like he took millions of dollars and turned it into a negative balance. One particular guy got a contract for millions of dollars, burnt all of that money within 4 years. Every single penny. And there's countless people like that. Countless people like that. Rabotai Karim, if you think that money is going to be acquired through a specific profession because it requires a certain type of skill set or IQ or dedication, you do not have the right ideology, and you definitely do not have Bitachon in Hashem. Why? Having Bitachon in Hashem means that you understand that money comes from Hashem. Money comes from Hashem. Why? Everything is His. Liya kesef v'liya za'av ne'um Hashem tzevaot. Mine is the money, mine is the gold, says the God of legions. Hashem says everything is mine. The Mishnah is simply reminding us, don't teach your son, don't send your son to some law school, med school, and waste 10 years of his life because you think that's the way that he's going to have to make money. He could simply make money in a million other ways. He doesn't have to go waste his life. Why? If he goes into that path, guess what? He's going to not be able to study so much. He's going to have a tough time. There are very few that actually succeed in living both lives, meaning such a committed career, at the same time a high standard Torah lifestyle. They do exist. There's one particular one, Baruch Hashem, that I just heard about recently. The author of the Sefer called a Mafteach. I mean, this work, Mafteach, is a work of brilliance. Brilliance. It's literally an index for the entire Shas, Bavli, telling you exactly where every sugya in the entire Shas is. It's something unbelievable. Unbelievable. When I heard his story, He says that when he showed this to Rav Kanievsky gave him a hug. Now, anyone that sees the videos of Rav Kanievsky is not exactly a hugging type of personality. When he saw this, he gave him a hug. This work of brilliance. Now, you would think this came from someone that's a lifelong avrech, sitting in a kollel in some corner, no one ever hears and no one ever sees him. No, he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer. A successful one, too. So they asked him, the publishers at Art School that are reprinting this book, asked him, listen, how did you manage to write this book that requires an enormous amount of time, of work, going through the entire Shas? I mean, it's not like reading and writing your synopsis of it. This is like going through every single sugya, every complication in the Torah, and literally indexing it. Where is this? Where is this? All the sources, all the places, and so on and so forth. But it has to come from a learner, not just a computer. Somebody like that, how did you have time to... He says, I did less lawyering. I couldn't work as much. Why? I was learning Torah. Now, how many stories are there like that? Not many. Not many. Why? When you go into that type of world, it's no different than when you go into the stock world. Many people ask me all the time, listen, should I go become a broker? Should I become a hedge fund manager? Should I go into the investing? Should I start day trading myself? I said, not if you want to have a Torah lifestyle. Why? Because it's a consuming life. To go into the stock market, whether as an investor that's active, or as a broker or a hedge fund manager, in essence, all three are active in the market. It's a consuming profession. Even if you don't do a trade every day, you have to watch what's going on all the time. There's no sleep. There's nothing. There's simply no life. And even when you're trying to do other things, you're constantly thinking, wait, the market just opened in China. The market just opened in the UK. The market this, the market that. The earnings are coming up. Earnings are finishing. The GDP is coming out. This is coming out. There's constantly stuff going on that's market moving. And unless you're an extremely long-term investor that just puts their money in park and just leaves it, you're not going to survive. You're not going to survive with your head on straight. Why? Because it's a consuming business. Now, are there success stories? Yes. Do I know a few? I know of a couple. Of someone that invests and at the same time is very dedicated to Torah. But ratio, almost non-existent. Microscopic. Why? Because it requires a very, very strong personality and a very strong pre-existing dedication to the Torah that's superior to your desire to succeed in the profession itself, which again is very hard to come by. Needless to say, if you're getting into the stock market because you think that's the way you need to make your money, or you're getting into the law world, legal world, or medical world because that's where you need to make your money, it's a mistake. Even without just the Torah and everything else, it's a mistake. Why? Because that means you have the wrong ideology. You think that you are going to make the money. And that's why the same Mishnah says, Atov shebarofim legehenom. The best of doctors go to Gehenom. The best of doctors. And there's several commentaries on this. One of the commentaries says, listen, best of doctors, he on Rosh Hashanah, he prays for more patients. He has a lot of patients, makes a lot of money, so he prays for more patients. So he doesn't care about people's lives. So that's one commentary that says, oh, they're really good, but they're in essence, they're waiting for more patients, meaning more people getting sick. He wants coronavirus number 2. On the other hand, another commentary says something else. The Maharsha says that the best of doctors, because he's the best at what he does, and he gets to a point where he starts to consider himself the best in the field, and starts to rely on his own judgment and refuse to consult with others, which can bring a person to tragic results. Because he's the best, it led him to have less Bitachon in Hashem, more Bitachon in himself. In essence, the arrogance ended up destroying him and killing somebody else in the process. Therefore, Gehenom is the ultimate destination. And so on and so forth. This Mishnah, you read it, this page 82, Masechet Kiddushin, it's mamash beautiful. The whole thing has to do with Bitachon. We would spend 5 hours just learning this one particular Mishnah. But the point is, Rabotai Karim, is that we see that Bitachon has a bit of everything we have. Every single facet of our existence has Bitachon in it. If a person does not have Bitachon, He simply will not survive the day. Will not survive the day without more sins than mitzvot. Now, the Chazon Ish continues and he tells us that to have this Bitachon brings us to Ruach HaKodesh, but in addition to this Ruach HaKodesh, this person now has a strengthened spirit that tells him that Hashem will indeed help him. Meaning the fact that he has Bitachon, he now has more confidence that Hashem will actually help him. What is it like? It's like David HaMelech said. David HaMelech says in the book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse number 3, though an army would besiege me, my heart would not fear. The war would arise against me. In this I trust. See here, David HaMelech says something very unusual. He said, even though there's going to be enemies and they're going to attack me, I'm not going to have any fear. I'm not going to have any fear at all. They want to attack me. They don't like me. They say that I'm a fanatic. They say that I'm crazy. They say that I'm all types of things. I'm not going to be afraid of this. I don't care what they say. I care what Hashem says. But if a war would arise against me, if not only do they attack me by making stupid comments on the internet, but they go with a public letter, they start to destroy me, they start calling the Rabbanut, they start doing this, they start doing that, why? To destroy me. He says, this I trust. This seems a little unusual. Hold on a second. What you're saying, on one hand, if they say things that are bad about you, you have no fear. They threaten you, you have no fear. And if they actually attack you, oh, now I have more Bitachon. This is David HaMelech. Shouldn't it be the opposite? Or what's going on here? The Baal Shem Tov says, Rabotai Karim, something fantastic. Anything good, anything that's worth any value whatsoever, has to have the Satan go against it. Has to. If he doesn't go against it, it's not good. And in addition to that, anyone that tries to do something good, desires to do something good, good will come out of it. Even if you see bad in the interim. In the end, it will be good. David HaMelech says, I'm going to try to do the best that I can to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And everyone's going to call me fanatic. And everyone's going to say, you're crazy. It's not for this generation. Everyone's going to say, no, why'd you say that? You're scaring people. I know I'm saying the truth. I'm going to try to help people do tshuva. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to learn. I'm going to try to do what Hashem says. And I know that the surroundings are so focused on money. They're so focused on sins. They're so focused on desires. They're going to call me crazy. And they're going to say all types of things, but I'm not scared of what they say. I don't care what they say. I'm going to continue. But if they end up attacking me, they end up saying, you know what? We're going to go against you. We're going to destroy your career. We're going to write posters about you. We're going to make clips about you. We're going to do all types of things to destroy you in every single way. David HaMelech says, now I have Bitachon. What Bitachon? I have Bitachon finally that what I've been doing is the right thing. Finally, the Satan gave me a stamp that he doesn't like what I'm doing. Why? I'm helping people. I'm publicizing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah. Now I have Bitachon. Why? When everybody was calling me crazy, maybe they're right. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am fanatic. Who knows? But I'm not afraid. Why? Because I read it. This is what I understood. I did the best I could. But if they start attacking me, they start going, making all types of comments, they try to destroy this, destroy that, they get in my way. Now I have Bitachon. Ishtabach Shimolad. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for sending the Satan to give me the verification by having them attack me. Because now I know that what I'm doing, that's the right thing. That's the right thing. Why? If it wasn't the right thing, the Satan would just continue sitting, letting me do whatever I want. But if he doesn't want to let me succeed, surely it's because it's disturbing his business. It's disturbing the Satan's business of destroying neshamot. David HaMelech says, now I have Bitachon. A person that has Bitachon, Rabotai Karim, understands what David HaMelech says, why he lives it. Rav Zuckerman, the Talmid of the Chafetz Chaim, he lived this. He lived this in the Holocaust. He lived this after the Holocaust. In his Sefer called Yechid Bedoro, in Chelek Bet, in page 601, is an extraordinary story that you could get a glimpse of what a Baal Bitachon, how he views the world from his perspective. But you may have to hear this a few times. Why? Because at first 10, you're like, oh, yeah. It may not hit you. Especially in this generation where the opposite is usually the norm. There was one time, a Gvil, a rich guy, that wanted to do a big mitzvah, wanted to have a Sefer Torah written, but not just any Sefer Torah, a Sefer Torah that has the highest level of Hidurim, meaning the most particular things that are done, specifically one very, very holy thing, which is extremely rare and extremely expensive, which is to have the scribe not only dip every day before he starts writing, like every scribe should dip every single day in the mikveh before he starts writing, not only fast, which some scribes do when they write a Sefer Torah. No, it wasn't enough. He wants the scribe to dip in the mikveh every single time he writes a Kadosh Baruch Hu's name. Every time he writes a Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, he wants to dip in the mikveh. Now, of course, Kadosh Baruch Hu's name is in the Torah many, many times. This is a very special hiddur. Why? It's a huge commitment. It's a huge commitment by the scribe. Hence, it's expensive, it's time-consuming, it takes a lot longer to write the sefer, the scroll. Anyway, this very special scroll took a long time to write, and when it was finally completed, they brought it, and the Gvil invited many of the Rabbanim. Rav Zuckerman was among them. He wanted them to see this Achnasat Sefer Torah, this welcoming of the new Sefer Torah. And another Rav that was friendly with Rav Zuckerman also showed up, and they, as is custom for a Achnasat Sefer Torah, when you celebrate the Sefer Torah to come in into the community and everyone is there and marching and celebrating and so on, also you get to the shul and you put on the Sefer Torah, you open it, and you have the last several letters inscribed by some of the congregants. Sometimes it's for the purpose of raising money for the shul, because each person donates a certain amount of money to inscribe one letter, of course with the hand-holding of the scribe itself, so you write it the right way. And sometimes it's not necessarily for raising money, but rather to share the schut, share the merit with others, of writing as if they were a partner in writing the Sefer Torah. I remember when we donated the Sefer Torah years ago, and they had this thing. To this day, I don't even understand how significant it was, but nonetheless, it's a beautiful thing. So anyway, they have this ceremony, everyone's happy, this very special Sefer, this very special scroll is ready, and everyone starts inscribing the letter. Each person comes in, all of the different people that the Gvir invited, his friends, family, and so on. All types of big rabbis were invited, and different people from all over the world came. It was a very big event. And one of the Rabbanim he gets invited to write the letter, and as he gets closer and closer to the Sefer Torah, he doesn't pay attention, and he runs into one of the people that's carrying a bottle of wine, an open bottle of wine, and boom, the bottle flies, and all of it collapses right on top of the scroll itself, right where all the letters are. What an embarrassment. What a shame. What are we going to do? He turns pale. He doesn't know what hole to bury himself in. But the Gvil is calm, collected, said, BeEzrat Hashem, the Sofer will rewrite it, don't worry, we'll, cut this part out because it's the cloth. It's not, you cut that part out and in essence you replace it with a new part. So for now we'll just close it up and everyone's kissing the Sefer Torah, but it's really a pasul. It's void. It's not a real Sefer Torah because it's not complete. But for the celebration purposes, we'll continue celebrating and enjoying. It's not the whole Sefer Torah, it's just a part of it has to be redone. On the way home, he walks next to Rav Zuckerman, and he said to Rav Zuckerman, he's like, I don't understand. What an embarrassment. What a shame. Why did such a thing have to come? I was trying to do a mitzvah. I don't understand. And Rav Zuckerman looks at him without skipping a beat. And he says to him, surely you know that anyone that desires to do something good, nothing bad that could come out of it. Not just good because you decided it's good, but good because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says this is a mitzvah. You want to perform a mitzvah, you're trying to perform a mitzvah, surely nothing bad's going to come out of it. Which means that there has to be an account in heaven that's being settled right now as we speak. That had to happen in order for something good to happen. Now, the Rav at the time, listening to Rav Zuckerman, he doesn't have his Bitachon. He's not a gadol like him. He doesn't know which side of the field did you come from. Like, I'm telling you, I just went through the embarrassment of my life. I mean, it's enough to fall in front of people. It's enough to fall with wine. On top of it, to fall with wine on top of a priceless Sefer Torah in front of everybody, and you're the Rav. But such is life. The next day, Rav Zuckerman writes in his Sefer on page 601, he says that this same Rav that spilled the wine, that had the embarrassment, showed up to the second part of the event, which is the Sudat Odaya. The Gvir had a special festive meal, thanking Hashem for giving him the merit of writing such a special Sefer Torah. And he invited all of the friends. And each friend said, Chazaku Baruch, Chazaku Baruch. And then all of a sudden, this one man in the little room, well-to-do, says, listen, I'm not religious at all. In fact, he says, after the Holocaust, I decided I don't believe in God. I don't follow anything. I don't care about anything. But I flew all the way here from London just to pay respects to my friend, and I even got to write one of your little letters on the scroll. Now, most of the people there, okay, it's another announcement. Next, a little unusual, but next. The rabbi starts dancing around in happiness. Dancing around in happiness. He runs to Rav Zuckerman's house. He says, Rabbi, you have to listen to this good news. Good news. The Rabbi Zuckerman says to him, what good news? What happened? He says, good news. Look what happened. Ishtabach Shimo La'ad. Look what happened. This guy has his friend that is a mumar. He doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in nothing, goes against Hashem even if he knows. He knows Shabbat exists, he knows Judaism is, but he decides to go against because he's upset with God about the Holocaust. And he wrote a letter in the Sefer Torah. Baruch Hashem, that had it not been for me spilling that wine on that Sefer, everybody would be kissing and reading from a Sefer Torah that's not valid. Why? The Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh De'ah, Siman 281 says a Sefer Torah that has an inscription, writings in it, even if it's a single letter, from a heretic is void. You cannot use it. It's null and void, even though he only wrote one letter, this heretic. It made the whole Sefer, the whole scroll is void, cannot be used. But apparently nobody else knew. Either they didn't know he's a heretic, or they didn't know the halacha. Needless to say, had it not been for the wine ruining that page would still be there, and everybody would be celebrating and kissing and reading from that scroll for however many years, Even though it's void, they were making a bracha levatara, making a sin from a Torah each time they use it. But now, Baruch Hashem, that it was spilled on it, they took out that part, they're going to put a brand new part, and he's not going to write in it. He's going back to his country. Now you're impressed. I'm impressed. Arav Zuckerman says to him, no, of course that's what's going to happen. I told you, that's how it works. There has to be an account in Shamayim that has to be settled because you tried to do something good as defined by a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, nothing bad can come out of it, which means that whatever happened was the best possible thing. That's what's written in the Torah. Why are you so surprised? To someone that's glued to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, this is not surprising. To the rest of us, this is unbelievable. Praiseworthy are those that have real Bitachon in Hashem, because Aboteach beHashem Chesed Yesovevenu, someone that has real Bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, only kindness surrounds him. Rabotai Yekarim, each and every single person has an option to be either an average person that struggles or a person that understands what the struggle is for. You see, we have a verse in the Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, Ki et Hashem yoav, Hashem yochiach. Whoever HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves, he rebukes him. He gives him tests. He gives him difficulty. Why? He loves you, so he wants you to know, I'm thinking about you. Yeah, why can't he think about me by giving me a lotto ticket with winning numbers? Why can't he be thinking about me by giving me a brand new raise on my job and a brand new car and a brand new house and a brand new everything every single day? Why can't he show me that? Because unfortunately, many times when we succeed, we forget about God. But needless to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not just worried about your physical life here. He's worried about your eternity. And sometimes we make mistakes by forgetting about Hashem, by misunderstanding Hashem, by simply not following Hashem. And in order for him to give us a good eternity, he has to rebuke us. He has to give us tests. He has to give us different difficulties in order to elevate us to the place that he wants us to be. But we have an option. We have an option of how we interpret all of this. We have an option how to interpret every single thing. And I had a small chidush that surely the Chachamim thought of many times before I ever looked at it. But if you look at the book of Psalms, chapter 25, verse 17, it says, Tzarot levavi irchivu, mimitzukotai otziani. So, the English translation translates David HaMelech's words of Tzarot levavi irchivu, mimitzukotai otziani. The troubles of my heart have broadened. Release me from my distresses. That's in essence, what the literal translation is, where it says that David HaMelech is saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that the troubles of his heart have become bigger, have broadened, and please help me with my difficulties. Right? Now, if you read the translation that way, it's pretty normal. David HaMelech is crying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He has problems. Please help me. But if you read it like I learned from Rabbi Ephraim, it says, Tzarot levavi irchivu. The problems have widened my heart. The problems have widened my heart. Release me from my distresses. Meaning, David HaMelech is saying, these problems that I have, I can look at it like everybody else. Wow, I got a lot of problems. I got a problem here, got a problem there, got a problem there. I got a book full of problems. And some people have a to-do list, I have a problem list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Never-ending list. David HaMelech says, I have a never-ending list. That's what everybody else looks at. They look at a to-do list, problem list. That's one way you could look at your problems. That's one way you could look at your life. That's one way that is a common way. Or you could look at it like David HaMelech really looked at it. And David HaMelech says, Tzarot levavevi echivu. These tzarot, these problems, they've widened my heart, meaning they've given me more bitachon, more connection to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? I know that et Hashem yoav, Hashem yochiach. I know that when Hashem loves somebody, He gives them tzarot. When Hashem loves somebody, He gives them problems. So now that I see I have all these problems, it made my heart swell up. Why? I'm taking all this love you're giving me. I know you love me because you're giving me these problems. I know you're testing me because you're trying to elevate me. That's the way David HaMelech looked at it. That's the way Rav Zuckerman looked at it. That's the way a Baal Bitachon looks at it. Someone that has Bitachon gets to a level of Ruach HaKodesh not because this Bitachon, you have it, you bought it in a supermarket somewhere, and therefore you're going to be able to float and levitate among mankind. But rather, by acquiring this Bitachon, you're going to acknowledge that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere, literally, everywhere in your life. And that in itself will allow you to have the insight and the inclination to perfect your actions. By perfecting your actions, it's going to widen your heart to accept more and more of Hashem. The more and more of Hashem that you accept, the more strength you're going to have spiritually to continue pushing forward despite the many problems. Why? Because you now view the problems differently than the rest of the people around you. While they all look at it as problems, you all look at it as love from Hashem. Why? He's giving me problems because He has the solutions and He's going to give them to me also. I have all the confidence in the world that the problems are from Him, but also the answers are from Him. And if I have the confidence that the problems are from Him and the answers are from Him, surely He's going to give me the answers for the problems He gave me. Rabotai Yekarim, Bitachon is not just going to give you Ruach HaKodesh, but it's going to give you a life that's worth living, a life of Kodesh, a life of holiness. But it all starts with listening to Hashem. Every single thing He says. Don't question things that perhaps you don't have the knowledge to question. You have a rabbi, you trust the rabbi. Rabbi says yes, you go yes. Rabbi says no, you go no. Of course, you can check, you can double check, you can look at the books, you could ask 1.5 million different questions, but don't let the Satan fool you to thinking that you know more than the sages, you know more than the rabbis, you can tell people what to do, you could just decide otherwise. Why? Because that's what the Satan has been doing to so many people. He's fooled so many people into thinking that they know better than the sages, better than the rabbis, better than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we have an entire generation of people that is simply walking blind into the abyss. Why? They think they have Bitachon, but they don't. They think they follow Hashem, but they don't. They think they're following the God of Israel, but they don't. Some are Jews, some are non-Jews. The reality is we have an entire society of people that are being led astray, are already used to going astray without any inclination that they're even going astray. You, Baruch Hashem, had the merit to listen to the truth, to learn the truth, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted you to have it at this time. Since you already got to this place, do yourself the best service you can, the best favor you can. Follow the truth until the end. And BeEzrat Hashem, sanctify HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name more and more each day while enjoying the journey through the process. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach. Rabotai Yekarim, introducing the new BeEzrat Hashem lecture center. We, Baruch Hashem, are here in Cooper City, Florida, on Sterling Avenue. We have, in the same shopping center, we have a major kosher supermarket, lots of Jews out here. Initially, we're going to start off this place next month with the place where we're going to do our weekly shulim 3 times a week. And Hashem, as the crowd grows, maybe we'll add some more shulim in Hebrew as well. Initially, it's going to be for men and women in English, and then later on, Hashem will do some other things. Later on, we're going to need to transform this place also into a synagogue. But as you can see, the walls are empty. We need an enormous amount of books. We need a Sefer Torah. We need an Aron Kodesh. We need a Mechitza. We need a Bima. We need all the holy things that you need for a synagogue. Now, throughout the years, we've been very generous to other people who've donated to Torah, who've donated money to different synagogues, and I'm sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to send us the right people to donate all of these things to our organization, because all we want to do is spread Torah to the world. So anyone that is serious and looking to make a major contribution to our organization, whether it be the Sefer Torah or the Aron HaKodesh or the Mechitza, please contact us or simply go to our website, BeEzrat.org, and may Hashem continue to bless you.